clap. You're going to understand today Leetcode question, that is zero array transformation 1. So let's read this question. So you have given an integer array nums of length n and to the array queries. Means two things we have given, the arrays we have given and the queries we have given, where queries at I is left index and right index we have given li and ri. Means each queries contains the you can say a range, left index and the right index in the array, right, nums. Okay, so for each queries at I we have to select the subset within the range that we have given in the nums, and then we have to decrement the value at the selected indices by 1, right? So each time we have to decrement, right, the value at the selected indices by 1. So a zero array is an array where all the elements are equal to 0, so we have to return true if it is possible to transform nums into zero array after processing all the queries sequentially, otherwise return false. Pause this video and go through the statement, right? So you will have the clear understanding of the problem, what the problem is saying that. Okay, so let's continue. So problem statement is saying that you have an array nums and a list of queries. So this is in the range of you can say left index and the right index on the nums, and for each query you can pick any subset of indices in the range of the given range, like left index and the right index, and we have to decrement their values by 1. So after applying all the queries in order, you want to know if it is possible to make all the elements in nums exactly saying that, right? So the question is saying that each query lets you decrement some indices in its range by 1, right? So the problem asks if or you can say, is there a way to pick subsets from these queries so that every elements, right, every elements ends up to 0, right? So we have to find the way to pick the subsets from these queries so that every elements ends up 0, right? So just pause this video and think about the intuition. Okay, so think, because we can pick any subset inside each range query, and the maximum decrement count for each index is exactly the number of queries covering that indices, right? So for example, if an index is covered by let's suppose 3 queries, you can decrement that indices up to 3 times, right? So the problem boils down to, like, let's suppose, can each element in the nums can be reduced to 0 or less by total number of queries that covered it, right? So we have given the number of queries here, right? So if the queries is up to 3 queries are there, right, means we can decrement this nums, right, how many times? Up to 3 times, right? So we can say to ourselves, can each element in nums be reduced to 0 or less by the total number of queries that we have given, right? So let's think about the approach, right? So what will be our approach, right? So first of all, we'll try to count how many queries cover each index efficiently. So instead of looping over every query for every indices, which is slow, right? So we'll use a difference array to recover the you can say record, right? Let's suppose, what I'm trying to say, if we have given these nums, right, let's suppose these nums we have given, queries we have given, right? So for each queries, right, for each queries, what we will do, there is a range, right? So let's suppose the first query is there 0 and 1, right? So this is our left index and this is right index, okay, for query 1, right? So if we will find the difference, let's suppose, so difference at li, right, let's suppose we'll start from decrement effect, so it will provide what, -1, suppose, okay, and then we'll do the ri, right, the right index will do +1. So initially the difference was what, -1, right, because we have start the decrement effect, and when we are reaching the end, right, the end decrement effect will happen, right? So after processing all the queries, let's think that we'll take the prefix sum of the difference, and the value at indexes will give the total decrement count for the nums at I, right? So we'll go through some steps and you will understand what I'm trying to say, right? So we have a difference array here, right? So in the step one, what we'll try to do, right? First, we will go through like we will initialize all the array, that is difference array, and the what is difference array. So it helps to apply all the queries, increment decrement in let's suppose there is a number of queries we have given. Let's suppose m is the number of queries, right? So it will go for o of m times, right, instead of o of n into m, right? So for that we have to create the difference one. So we'll use the prefix sum, then we'll give the final coverage for the o of n times that we have given, right? That we'll go through. Means we will use an array to get coverage count per index, and then we'll check if each index in the nums can be fully decremented by that coverage, right? Once this is done, so we will return true if all can be reduced to 0 or not, right? So the very simple approach we will do, first of all we'll count how many queries we have at each index, then we'll compare the coverage with the required decrement, and we'll check if all indices can be decremented through the times, will return true. So let's suppose that we will initialize the first step. We'll take difference, we'll take 0 0 0 0 0, and these are the indices. For this indices, this is 0, this is at 1, this is at 2, this is at 3, and we'll take one extra indices, that is called 4. Let's go to continue. Okay, so these are the indices that we have given, right? Now process each query, right? So how we are going to process each query? So at query 1, right, we have what, 0 and 1, right? As you can see in the queries, we have given 0 and 1. So we'll take the first query and we'll process the queries, right? So we have to update the diff array. Okay, so for that, at index 0, as I told you, what we have to do, first of all we have to take li at -1, means we are going to start decrement the effect, right? So if you'll take difference is equal to what, minus, let's suppose whatever it will have at difference at 0, we'll do minus, right, and we'll provide 1, so it will go on -1. So this is called start decrement effect, right? So for that we will update our diff array, means we will initialize, let's suppose you can say initialize, right, the queries. After that we'll do the first query, we have what, 1 we have, so we have already 1, so we'll do minus and then we'll do plus. So queries at start will do minus, and queries at end will do plus. So if you see, we will get -1, here we will get +1. So we have to update -1 and right, plus. The next query we have is 1 2, so diff at 1 will do minus, right, and diff at the next will do plus. So first at start index will do minus, and end index will do plus. So if this is, let's suppose 1 and 1, so we'll do -1 and this will go +1, right? So similarly we'll update, you can say -1 at 1, let's suppose this is 0, this is 1, so this at index 1 will update -1, and index 3 will update +1, right? Now we'll process the last query, right? So we have to process all the queries. So at the last query, at start index we'll do minus, at start 4 we'll do plus. So similarly we'll do what, at start 2 we had let's suppose what we have some value was there, right? It was 1, +1 was there, right? So what we will do, we'll do 1 and we have to do minus, so we'll do -1. So 1 minus 1 is what, 0, right? At right index what we have, 1, right? How, at index 4 previously it was what, 0. So if we'll do +1, we'll get the +1, and so we have to update the +1, right? Now if you see that we have processed everything, right? So now the updated difference is like this, and these are the indices that we have given, and nums we have taken 3 2 2 3, and queries we have given this. So we have processed all the queries and we have built the difference. Now it's time to understand to calculate the prefix sum and the checks. So how we are going to find the prefix sum and checks? So think about, let's I is at index 0, okay, and difference is -1, means I at index 0, difference is -1. Now we will do current decrement, means sum of diff, right? So let's suppose sum of diff means we have what, 0 and with -1, right? So what will come, it will come -1, right? If we'll find nums at I is what, nums at I is 3, right? How? So at index 0 nums is what, 3, so we have nums is 3, okay? So you have got the indices difference and the sum of difference, right? You got the -1. Now what we have, nums at I is 3, that we have seen in the nums. Now nums at I and the current decrement 3 plus -1 is equal to 2, and it is not coming 0. So can we reduce this to 0? No, right? Because 2 is greater than 0 and we cannot reduce to 0, right? Since this is not going to go further, we don't need to go further, like we at the first itself it is not coming 0, so no need to process all of these rest of this diff array, right? The further in at index 0 itself it is not coming 0, so we will not further go for the further checks. Means further we will not go to calculate all the prefix sum and the checks, right? So what we will do, since at index 0 nums at 0 plus current decrement is greater than 0, so we cannot reduce the nums at 0 to 0, so answer is false. It will started with at 0. For indices I, we add checks to the current, means 0 plus -1 will get -1. Now we check nums at 0 and current decrement is 3 plus -1 is 2, and since 2 is greater than 0, this means all the decrement nums at 0 can't become 0 or less, so we return false immediately, and we do not need to check further because the condition 0 array, we have to return true or false. We have given nums and query, right? So what we will do first, so we will in the first step we have to create the difference array initialization, right? So we'll define n equal to nums dot length, right? We'll get the size, and first of all we'll create a difference array for efficient range update, right? So we'll create the difference array diff of size n plus 1. So this array will help us to efficiently apply all the queries in O of m times, means m equal to you can say number of queries instead of applying each query directly, which could be n into m times, right? So for that we will reduce the O of m times, right? So we'll take first we will what we will do, we'll find the size n plus 1 and we'll initialize it. Okay, after that we will process each query and we'll update the difference array. How we are going to do? So for each query we will make a for each, and we'll process each query at a time. So while processing the query with the diff array, each query having a left index and the right index, means we want to decrement any subset of element between li and ri, means left index and the right index, by 1, right? So we'll get the left index from the query at 0 and right index from the query at 1, right? And then what we will do, we'll do decrement the left index and right index by 1, and for that we'll do diff at left at I is minus minus and right at I is plus 1, we'll do, okay, plus plus. So we'll do that. And so to represent that each index li and ri can be decremented at most once, we'll mark diff at li, and ri is li will do what, will do -1, and the diff ri will do +1, like this we'll do. Okay, so what it is means, what is the meaning of this? So this means the range of left index and right index will get decrement effect of applying -1. Okay, and then in the next step we'll use prefix sum to calculate how many times each index is decremented, right? Means we are trying to calculate the prefix sum. So when we accumulate the value in diff array from left to right index, so the running total current decrement after processing different at I shows how many times the index I can be decremented or maximized, right? So we'll do how, let's understand. First of all, we'll take a int decrement, we'll initialize from 0, then we'll go for all the arrays element, right? And then we'll find the current decrement, we'll do plus equal to diff at I, we'll apply the prefix sum. Okay, and for that further we'll check if after decrementing current element can be become 0 or less, right? So current decrement is negative or 0 because all marks decrement as -1, right? So we'll check that if nums at I plus current decrement is still positive, it means we can't decrement it enough times to reach 0. If so, we'll return false here, right? So if any element is still positive, means we are not going to transform, right? So transformation is not possible. means we can't decrement it enough time to reach to 0. Okay, and will return false. Finally, once this is done, these steps are done, right? What we will do, we'll return our answer. So if all elements can be reduced to 0, we'll return true, and finally we'll return true as an answer. So if all elements satisfy the 0 or less condition, we have to return true, and meaning it that it reduces to all the zeros which is given queries. So why this code will work, right? So the difference array lets us efficiently calculate how many times each index could be incremented or decremented at most, right? So in this case, it could be decremented at most, right? So from the sum of all the queries, we are affecting it, doing what we're doing, decrementing, right? So from that we can find. So since the problem state we can choose any subset inside each query's range, the maximum decrement per index is just how many queries cover that index. So we just check if the number, let's suppose if nums at I is less or equal to the maximized possible decrement. If the element needs more decrement than it can get, right? So zero array transformation isn't possible. Okay, so I hope you understand, guys. Let me know in the comment box that you understand the problem, right? So to summarize that, we can just say that we use difference array to get coverage count per index, and then we check if index element is in num can be fully decremented by that coverage, and then we'll return true if all can be reduced to 0, else return false. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Please hit subscribe this channel and support Expert Funda if you like this video. Thank you for watching this video.